Good morning, folks. Dave Schmidt here. It's the morning of August 4th as I'm doing this recording. On the program I was scheduled to have last Wednesday, I said I would give an update. Well, if you've been onto my website, you'll see that we had huge thunderstorms here and my internet was going in and out. And so I wasn't able to do the program because of the lack of internet that we had at that time. And well, I don't know. I just have to trust what happens and takes place. But I did say I was going to give an update. So here's what's coming forth on that. And I want to give an update to everybody regarding the currency exchanges. But before I do that, I want to go back and kind of review for some stuff. It's really important that we understand that I have always said this for years. Follow the money, follow the money, follow the money. You have to come back to who has the quadrillions of dollars to put out for this, not only for the currency exchanges, not only for funding humanitarian aid projects all around the world, but also eliminating the vast majority of the debt that is accumulated in most of our countries around the world. There's only really one primary source of that money, and that's the dragon families that I have been in contact now with for over 4 years. Out of that, when it comes to currency funding, that has branched out to 2 sources. Now, initially I used to say there was 3. Well, in my opinion, I have found out that one of them was not very reliable, so I no longer trust them and I no longer have any communication with them. But both of these 2 sources, one of them is run by the U.S. Treasury and what I call the White Hats within the CIA, and it's a part of a 186 nation agreement that they have contracted on, and they're running off of a contract basis. There have been some people that have already turned in their currencies to them, and those are what I call round 1 funders. Now, this is a funding source that's located at a location here in the United States, and they have 3 primary offices, one in the United States, one in Switzerland, and one in Hong Kong. Some of you have already turned in currencies to me for those sources, and those are the ones that go back a ways. Now, I had said that periodically I will have brokers that will call me up and they'll say, you've got either 3 days, 5 days, 7 days to get X amount of currency turned in. And obviously I cannot go to my full list because I have close to 18,000 names on my list. Folks, it would take me months to process that many people. Even if I had 30, 40, 50 volunteers, it would still take months to process that many people. So I do what I said I do. I go back to the people who had attended my previous workshop and I open it to them. Now, we did some of that a little over a year ago for some of you. Here's what I want to say. That funding source is processing and it is moving along very well. They have 3 stages of development they have to go to. They are in the 2nd stage and they are now in the process of testing the release of funds. They have had 2 of their largest sources they have released money to. They have paid them out and they're working through the logistics of what it takes to move these funds on an international basis. That is not a simple process, folks. If you want to move $300, $400, $500 million across country lines, what happens is your bank accounts get shut down. They just get shut down, and they will take an extensive process to verify you, to make sure that your funds are legitimate, that you're not money laundering, that you're not pushing drug money, etc., and stuff like that. And if you're new to this list, you can count on it's going to take probably at least a month for you to go through the process to be verified to move that volume of money. That's a system that is pretty much set up in the banking industry internationally. Now, when you look at the thousands and thousands of people who are going to receive currencies, there's a lot of people, tens of thousands of those that are going to be receiving in the scores of millions of dollars into their accounts. Well, that process has to be tested and it has to be opened up and it has to be known who can do that. And that is what they're working on right now. Trust the fact that that process is moving well. The other funding source is basically those that I've told you about has been the M's, Mr. M and Ms. M, and their team. They're a part of the team that is that funding source. Now, I want to speak to those of you that back in April, I had collected from you a specific type of currency and we turned it in. And that was coming from their funding source. It's really important to understand that when this process is taking place, this does not come without opposition. These types of funds being released is a world-changing event. It basically means what I talk about, the neutering of the cabal, the neutering of what we would call these dark hat power sources, where their power is basically neutered and they don't have the power that they used to have. And that's what this money is going to do. Well, you have to understand then that that does not come without severe, strong opposition from them. When we collected, there was a small group of people that I collected currencies from you in April, and we thought that was going to happen very quickly, and everything was on target to do that. Well, what happened is we ran into some very severe opposition from what you call the dark hats. They stepped up their game plan to try to shut the whole thing down. Now, I want you to know everything is safe, everything is in order, everything is in good condition, but because of that, they're having to take a step back, finding out where the opposition is coming from, and having to make sure that they can proceed on a safe basis. I have been saying now for months, this is all about safety, safety, safety. Safety for you and me to have our funds moved in a safe manner, and also safety so that we don't, as a large group, end up becoming the target of that opposition. I know who I am, where I am, and what I'm talking about in this process. I know where my opposition comes from, and I'm fine. And it's important for you to know they're not going to target you. You're not a threat to them, folks. You're just one of the thousands and thousands on these lists of myself and a couple others, and you're not a threat to them. So don't worry about that. And secondly, do not email me asking more questions about when, where, and how. I will not answer those emails. Secondly, do not expect from me to send out an updated email to a group of people. If I do that, what I have then done, broadcast all those names who are on that list to the outside opposition sources. Folks, they are the best in the world at being able to hack into anything. And they will look for me sending out a list of names that has maybe 200, 300, 400 people on it. And guess what? I just gave them the whole list of who's going to be in this probable first round funding. I won't do that anymore, folks. It's for your safety that I do not send out your broadcasted updates that you want from me. If you want me to send them your name directly, I'll send your name to them directly, and you can get targeted by them. And this is not a joke. It is not a joke. Folks, when we chose to step into this, this is not a laissez-faire, everything's going to go nice and smooth and easy, and you're just going to get a bunch of money, and you're going to be rich and be able to give a lot of money away without any opposition. No, 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 no. That is not the case. Now, once again, I want to address what takes place on the various exchange currency dinar guru blog sites. Excuse me here. You need to understand the real people with the real money never, never, never broadcast and post on those blog sites what they are doing. And if you noticed, none of them have ever addressed where their money is coming from. I've been challenging them that now for over 4 years, close to 5 years, and they refuse to address that question. What does that tell you? They don't know what's going on. Secondly, it tells you they're being used as a potential setup to entrap people with all this information that they're being given. And if you noticed how much they are wrong, they are never correct in estimating when the currencies are going to be released, when it's going to come out, and what's going to happen. And they refuse to address the inaccuracies. Now, that's common sense, folks. When for over 5 years they haven't been able to tell you who's got the money, where it's coming from, when over 5 years all of their projections about when have always been wrong, and when for close to 5 years they just don't address those issues, they don't apologize, they don't make a correction in their statements, what does that tell you? Almost everything on those blog sites is deliberate misinformation to entrap you. Now, recently, I've been making a shift of what I've been talking about on the weekly programs. And I do this for a reason, folks. It was about a year ago I started talking about that we're moving into this new era of what is called the transhumanist agenda era. And that there are going to be these very strong, powerful, cabal, elitist people who are going to use artificial intelligence in their means in attempting to control people. If you want to understand that, then I encourage you to go read at least the 5th Naruto interview, and it's on my website under the resources tab if you want to see what's really going on in this world and what we're coming into. That is the default system of that, what we're moving into in the next 10, 20 to 30 years. And so when I talk about developing this heart consciousness, it's the antidote to that. This is not a small thing. I don't do this just to be nice. I don't do this just to give some good spiritual teaching. I don't do this just to be able to make us be in a feel-good state. I do this for the sense of, if you want to be a person who's on the front cutting edge of helping to shift and change this world, and if you want to be a person that's going to be able to take these funds and use it in a responsible and a powerful perspective and manner, then you need to understand this. Because if not, then you can get all this money, but you will also then very likely be someone who is entrapped in the process. And it's a setup. It is a setup, folks. And if you notice, I'm the only one here that's talking about this. Now, there's a reason for that. And I don't have time to go into all of that here now. But this is the update that I want to give you. So please, number one, for your own sake and security, don't start emailing me with a bunch of questions that are not necessary when you just didn't listen to this video. Okay? Secondly, I cannot give you any times and dates because we just don't know, because the opposition has stepped up and become very strong. Thirdly, I would encourage you to go read those Naruto interviews so you can get a perspective of what's going on in here and what's coming our way. If you want to receive these currencies, if you want to be involved in this process, it's important you understand that. Fourth, to understand what it means to develop this heart consciousness process. I'm going to continue working on that, continue to bring in those messages. I don't do this just to be someone who's a guru out there talking about this stuff. I've shared this many, many times in the workshops. This is a divine assignment for me, and I absolutely believe that. I don't know hardly anybody out there who's had 2 assassination attempts on their life, and I have. What does that tell you? I don't know anybody who constantly runs into disruption and oppositions repeatedly on the radio programs. What does that tell you? Those are the people that are attempting to shut me down and to stop this process because they understand and know who I am in touch with and whom I'm in contact with, and they know that I'm in touch with the real people with the real money to shift and change this stuff. Now, having said that, I have received so many confirmations from so many people that I have what is called a divine assignment. I have a protective covering that is over me, and I absolutely believe that, and I know what I need to do, and I understand this heart consciousness process because I've been working on this diligently, vigilantly now for almost 5 years myself. Now, that's the update that I want to bring to you, and this message is extremely important, and I hope you take the time to listen to this and take this very seriously about what I had to say today, because we are right on the verge of potentially, yes, we could start seeing some stuff happening in about 2 to 3 weeks. But it's important for you to understand and know, once I can say that funds are in the process of being released, it does not mean you're going to have it in a couple of weeks. It will probably take 2, 3, 4 months to develop through this whole string of everything we have to do to legally and safely move funds to you. So I would highly encourage you, do not program your life around receiving these funds and that you're needing it and depending upon it. Live your life, keep your day jobs, do everything that you would normally regularly do in your life, and don't expect this money to come and bail you out in the next 2, 4, 5 months. Folks, I doubt that is going to happen. I don't want you being set up with a false premise on this stuff, okay? And if you say this has been taking so long, well, you don't understand the full picture. The Dragon families have been working on this since 1943. Folks. How many years is that? 60, 50, 70, 80 years they've been working on this, and you're bitching and complaining about 6 months into a year. Wake up to what's really going on here. This is not a game, folks. This is about you and I being on the front edge of being the trailblazers to bring in a shift and change to our world, to bring in a shift and change to our, what is called our human race, to bring in a shift and change of helping us to step out of thousands of years of financial slavery. It's time. It's time for us as a human race to go through our evolutionary shift and change. It's time for us to take a next step into our sense of a higher awareness and consciousness in who we are in this world that we live in. And this, the funding here, is a part of that process. It's a part of the process of doing that. So thank you very much for listening to this. This message has been a little firmer. It's been a little more stringent, but it was time for me to be straight out in the open and says, this is what's going on, this is what's happening, and thank you for being on board and being a part of this process. I love all of you, and hopefully we'll have another program here on next Wednesday night. Thanks a lot. Okay, bye-bye.